So is she tapped into genuine female pushback to the excesses of wokery, or is she just an attention seeker? We'll find out in a moment. But first, let's take a look at the clip that sent her viral.
A lot of people think I'm insane because I don't think women should vote. Everybody thinks I'm crazy for this opinion. If anything, this is probably my...
She knows what's going to happen when she says something like that, okay? That is definitely sort of extreme, I will say. But most of what she says still gets demonized. Most of what she says still gets attacked with just a bunch of ad hominems and a bunch of degenerate, incoherent noise. The left tends to only levy degenerate attacks against these people.
The most extreme opinion. 90% of women have been on birth control. 1 out of 3 women has had an abortion. 1 out of 3 women has an STD.
This shows she's listing facts about women, and I'm willing to bet that there is no space for these data points in the leftist ecosystem. There's no expectation for that.
Be called the female Andrew Tate. How do you plead?
Well, I take it as a compliment. You know, I'm a fan of Andrew Tate.
Of everything he says?
It depends what we're talking.
Why is it so uncomfortable from the start? That's not a controversial thing to say. Andrew Tate is universally impressive and he's undeniably impressive.
Female Andrew Tate. How do you plead?
So pathetic.
Well, I take it as a compliment. You know, I'm a fan of Andrew Tate.
Right, exactly. But dude, the thing is for a person to say that, especially a woman to say that, you are expecting to encounter the woke mind virus at all stages. Just as soon as you say that, you're expecting to just run across a triggered woman, just run across, you know, a beta simp who is going to be like, oh my God, Andrew Tate's just the worst ever. Holy shit.
Of everything he says?
It depends what we're talking about, but overall, I think he's got a good message. I think he's good for young men.
Okay,
Objectively true. Objectively true.
You're talking about women predominantly, which is why you've got this big following. And your view is that modern feminism is deeply flawed. I would argue a lot of your proposals, like taking the vote away from women, are deeply regressive.
That's like the most extreme thing she's ever said. And frankly, I don't even think she's serious. I've never heard her say anything serious about that. I could be wrong. I don't watch Pearly Things. I just saw this clips of this on Twitter. But maybe that is a position of hers. I don't know. I do think what needs to happen is definitely women, you know, should have the right to vote. But what needs to happen is there to be a resurgence of expectations to adhere to reality, and therefore for women to develop, maybe even through instinctual means, a way to interface with reality that was never really expected before. Because prior to about 100 years ago, the way women really interfaced with reality was through their husbands. Getting married to a man was essentially only way to survive, and so women back then were extremely feminine because they knew that at some point in their life, you know, a masculine figure would come in and take care of the masculine problems, and they could just be feminine. But now, because women are rejecting men, they say things like toxic masculinity, they hate men, and they're enraged and triggered, and engulfed in resentment when they see impressive men like Andrew Tate. They're going to need to find a way to cope with reality in a way that doesn't just disintegrate it, which is really what femininity will do, because a central part of femininity is operating independent of objective frameworks. As a matter of fact, that is a working definition for femininity, is operating outside of objective frameworks.
Why would you want to remove just from yourself the right to vote?
Well, what happened was I had the same view, right? Back when I started, I was like, why? I found out that only 5% of women wanted the right to vote. And I couldn't figure out, like, why would women not? No, it's true. It's true. You look it up.
At the time.
At the time.
Because they've been conditioned by men to think that they shouldn't have a vote.
I mean, that's what they say. But, you know, I started reading their writings, right? And what I found out was that the reason a lot of women advocated for it was because
they didn't want to be men.
They believed it was the beginning of the breakdown of the family. You know, before you became one in marriage, 85% of people were married. And, you know, I hate to
exactly, there you go.
say it, but they were right. What has happened 100 years later?
Well, what's that got to do with them having the vote?
Well, it also goes back to responsibility. Again, men are 80 to 90% of the military. They run all of the infrastructures that make society run. So I just think if we want an equal say in society, then be equal. Do 50% of the hard jobs. Be 50% of the military. In the U.S., they're fined $250,000 if they don't join selective service, which is essentially the draft.
Okay, but specifically on the vote, what would having the right to vote have to do with family cohesion, for example?
It's the beginning of the separation between male roles and female roles. It's one of the earliest separations in the West that there is. And I think it can be a positive separation. I'm not advocating for it to remain the way it was, but there has to be an acknowledgement for the evolution that has taken place, especially with the birth control pill that was developed, allowing women to essentially be whores with no consequences. That also dramatically changed society. And that's not to say that I want to live in a world where birth control doesn't exist, but we do have to acknowledge the fact that these changes do have an effect on culture. Now, I'm willing to bet that we're not going to have a serious conversation on this panel because they're just here to demonize her. Oh, she's a person that agrees with Andrew Tate. They're opening with that in order to demonize her because they know that these trigger words, these are triggers that allow the left to immediately just demonize anyone they disagree with because they're intellectually lazy and their ideology doesn't actually require them to think carefully about ideas.
Well, because again, before you weren't trying to divide a family. It was one family unit. You had one vote for the family. I mean, I don't think it's good for a family to have two votes.
Ava, your mouth seems to have dropped about.
No, do you know what it's like?
I know.
No, that's not true. Actually, her jaw wasn't completely aghast. It wasn't like that at all. But he's saying that because he wants to again set up the framework of Pearly Things is insane and crazy and actually the one that we don't have to contend with, because if we had to contend with her ideas, we'd have to vet her ideas for coherence and objectivity, which are completely intolerable mechanisms to us. And when I say us, I'm referring to the radical left-wing ideology, because that type of thought process is devoid of any type of sense-making apparatus. It only cares about adherence to its principles, which are, victimhood status and resentment, and dividing people into various groups. So there's no room for disagreement, which is why they're trying so hard to demonize her. And we're only 3 minutes in.
It's just sort of a bit galaxy brain. I feel like, the stats that you're putting down are perhaps correct in some universe.
See, that's super interesting. They're perhaps correct in some universe. See, I told you at the beginning of this video that they didn't want to have to contend with the facts. And here, listen to what you just said. I told you that they didn't want to have to contend with the facts, and then it just got confirmed. She doesn't want to contend with the facts because she just said they might be coherent, or they might be true in some universe. What do you mean? There's one universe, and if they're true, then they have to be contended with. But she's saying that because the next thing is she's going to say, but they're not important and we don't have to think about it.
They just kind of don't really add up. That's what you're putting down are perhaps correct in some universe.
But
they just kind of don't really add up. I mean, just to take you back to the to the women's writings that you've allegedly read.
Why is this person supposed to be an expert? This is just their resident degenerate feminine personality. This is the same woman they had on to demonize Andrew Tate. That couldn't debate. She's basically just a mouthpiece for degenerate feminist ideology and propaganda. This is just a mouthpiece for the left. All she does is voice resentment. And I know this because I used to go to a school where this type of mental mind rot was rampant everywhere. I can instantaneously recognize it. Ideas aren't important to people like this. And to the people watching this program, what's funny is to the people watching this program, they want to also be completely brainless. But I have a feeling that most of these comments are probably positive.
Weren't allowed to go to school.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. That's incorrect. The first female property owner was in the 1600s. The idea that women couldn't work and couldn't.
I'm so sorry, but that would be inherited property.
The first female millionaire was in the late 1800s.
And was that inherited?
No, it wasn't. It was self-made.
Yes, it was. Self-made.
Yes, it
and
was.
She never inherited land.
Yes, she did not.
Why is she debating that as if she doesn't know? She's telling her a fact. See, they're just here to talk over the demonized personality.
What law permitted that?
What
law permitted that?
Well, there was no law. I mean, there's always been women that were influential in history.
Let's get on to the vote. So what I don't understand is, a part of your message, I've researched you today, and hang on a minute.
Okay.
Your big push is that you care about men and you don't think that men are...
This person's so incoherent. Dude, this is literally their resident idiot woman that they bring on whenever they need to demonize someone. Is this all they have?
Getting enough of a say. But
well,
hang on, I haven't made the point yet. Because of feminism, okay?
What was that? Hold on, I haven't made the point yet.
When you start making calls out like repeal the 19th, women shouldn't be allowed to vote, how is that helping young men? Because these young men have women in their lives, they have mothers, they have sisters, they have teachers, and they turn around,
Well, I think most people, when they hear that, they think past the surface level, and they would think, why would she say that? And the answer is because civilization would be more stable in the modern day and age if only rational actors were voting. And that's not to say that only men were voting. I'm not saying that means only men vote and no women vote. I'm saying if only rational actors voted, society would be in much better shape. And it is true on average that it can interface with rationality more effectively and more often. That would be psychologically true for sure. Negative emotion can get in the way of women thinking rationally, and it's the reason why they're more emotional on average too. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that that happens to be the case. So, yeah, and by the way, if only rational actors voted, then most men also wouldn't vote, because most men aren't capable of true rationality. They're not capable of impartially vetting an idea. And that's why I think what Pearly Things is saying here is worth thinking about.
They don't know how to act around women because you're giving them license to be misogynistic.
I wouldn't call it misogynistic. I say be equal. So again, men do all of the
feminists are
well,
saying.
then okay, I'd love for the feminists, please apply for the oil rigs. Please go do the hard jobs in society.
Look at this woman. Look at this woman struggling to cope with literal, like, factual, coherent statements. Okay, you want to be equal? Then go apply to the military at equal rates. Oh, you want to be equal? Do these jobs at equal rates. Oh, you want to be paid the same? Why don't you work the same jobs that pay that much? Oh, you want to be promoted at the same rates? Why don't you work 80 hours a week like the men do? Okay, like, it's not that complicated, but she can't handle it. Look at her face.
I don't equate for, I don't think men or women are equal until we do the equal work. So no, listen. Go apply to be on the oil rigs. Go be a plumber, go be an electrician, go be on the front lines of the military, and then we should have equal rights. But until feminists are willing to do
it's actually a good point to say that if you want to pretend as though men and women are the same, then prove that we're the same by showing us that you have the same predispositions and aspirations, which, by the way, is not something to aspire for. I want to say that right off the bat. Women should not aspire to have the same aspirations as men, because men and women are not psychologically identical. We are not blank slates, socially constructed. That's completely scientifically bogus, objectively false. So. And to be absolutely clear, there is no debate in the scientific community about if we're blank slates or not. It's just completely incoherent feminist propaganda. So the point is coherent, what she's saying when she says, you're pretending as though we're the same. And when I say you are, I mean your ideology, your feminist ideology wants to assert that men and women are the same. But we're not, because we're not choosing to do the same thing. So stop pretending as though we're the same is, I think, the really good point she's making here.
Oh. You said you were a volleyball player, and so you've got more strength than I do. I don't think.
But I don't have more strength than the average man. I'm not going to take your right away to do it. I don't have more strength than the average man. But again, it goes back to
Again, statistical facts. Just due to bone density, muscle density, a 16-year-old boy is stronger than 95% of women. And that's just biology. And that doesn't mean that they're better. That's a fact. And if you can't acknowledge facts, then you're the same as a flat earther.
Go be a plumber. You want to be equal, go be equal.
But you want divorce to be made illegal.
Yes.
Why?
That's because I support that. Divorce should be illegal unless there is provable abuse. And when I mean abuse, I don't mean, oh my God, he wouldn't buy me a handbag when I wanted him to. Emotional and financial abuse. I mean actual physical abuse. Only in situations like that should it be divorced, and it should be accompanied with one of them going to jail. But besides that, men and women should be forced to stick it out and fix their problems, to confront their problems. Because modern culture tells people, oh, you don't need to take accountability for anything. Oh, you have a problem? Just run from it. Turn your back and run the other direction. And this is why our society is falling apart, because people don't fix the problems. They don't confront the dragons that are devouring their households and lives.
Feminists have ruined marriage for the people that actually believe in marriage.
How?
When there's a 50% divorce rate, and
feminists and not feminists, and women initiate 80% of divorces. So 50% divorce rate, and 80% are initiated by women.
Average marriage
Why is that all down to the women, though?
I didn't say that it was all down to the women.
So why feminists?
You asked why I want divorce to be banned.
Yeah.
Can I finish that first? So
these people are so corrupt. Yeah, they don't want her to finish the answer.
I'm saying, the people that believe in divorce, go be in long-term relationships. Leave marriage for the people that actually believe in, for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
But doesn't the sanctity of marriage also rely on the woman being a virgin? So you wouldn't be able to get married.
What do you mean?
Well, you've spoken quite openly about how you're not a virgin, and so if you want to preserve that sanctity of marriage, then
Dude, these people, like I said, are completely just playing a game. They're not trying to make coherent points at all. That's not a coherent point. But you can see and this is technically degenerate feminine behavior when she's pretending to care about the coherence of the fact in order to make an incoherent point. That is actually a marker of literally degenerate femininity, because it's feminine to ignore reality, and it's degenerate to pretend as though you're going to apply that to reality, only then to have it be blatantly incoherent, and not even for it to be hidden, for it to just be blatantly and obviously incoherent, and then to act as though, you know, it does mean anything, because that doesn't mean anything. She's making a point that women aren't the same as they used to be, and that's just a statistical reality. And then she's drawing conclusions from that. She's not saying that she shouldn't be able to get married, or that women with six bodies, or that women with six, or women with a body count of 6 shouldn't be able to get married. She's saying women aren't the same as they were before. So yeah, again, it's a non-point from the resident idiot we have over here.
You know,
I just think that you're upholding standards that you don't actually live by.
You know, and that's a fair complaint. I wish I was, but you know, we can't go back.
She wishes that she was. And if you ask women and they are honest, they wouldn't admit this more than likely, because it's unflattering. But if you were to ask most women if they wished that they were virgins when they got married, most of them would say yes, because the majority of women do not aspire to be whores.
This idea that like women couldn't talk the last 500 years, there have been women throughout
history. I know, the American state education system has failed before, and it's failing now.
There have been women throughout history.
That is an incoherent point. Also, by the way, you look like a 4 there. I just want to say, what is the fuck is that chin? See, these women know that their value is defined from their beauty.
That have read, written, and been very influential in society.
Okay.
So this idea like women could never do it.
Do you know what I don't understand though is when it gets spiteful, okay? Because you put down a few arguments that I think are perfectly, like, you know, they're kind of evangelical and they're Christian, but those are your right to say it. What I don't understand is when it kind of seeps into this sort of, you call women fat, you say that they shouldn't have abortions, you say that they have...
Objective reality is so triggering to these delusional, reality-denying feminists. They hate reality because they're told to resent objective frameworks. By the resentment of Marxism, by the ethos of postmodernism, they are told to resent objective frameworks.
You know,
the question is, are they fat? Yes or no? The average American woman is 170 pounds. That's objectively overweight.
I mean, let's be honest. We now celebrate morbid obesity as some kind of body positive thing, and it is complete nonsense. So
look at that delusional woman react to facts. I just want to just frame that again, because it really is worthwhile.
That's objectively overweight.
I mean,
Piers Morgan comes in with the objective analysis. 187 pounds objectively. Oh, by the way, so the average weight in America for women, I believe, is 180 pounds, and for black women, it's 187 pounds. I don't remember where I learned that statistic, but yeah, it's widely reputable, and that is overweight.
To be honest, we now celebrate morbid obesity as some kind of body positive thing.
See? Exactly. She got frustrated when she heard the objective reality, because objective reality encroaches on the territory that leftists claim for their ideology, because their ideology has no space for coherent factual analysis. If you say to them, the average woman is overweight and fat, and they deny it, what people don't understand is that's the same as being a flat earther, because you are denying objective reality. Objective reality is all that matters, guys.
And it is complete nonsense. So actually, on that point again, there's a bit of truth in that.
And this is the problem.
How have we come to celebrate morbid obesity as body positive? It's nonsense.
We're not talking about morbid obese. I was actually...
Yes, it is. It is obese. 187 pounds. If you're like, 5'4", that's obese.
Watching your podcast earlier, and you spoke to someone who was, I would say, probably a size 12, and you called her fat, obese, and a divorcee.
Good.
She was fat, obese, and a divorcee. I mean, I don't know what to say. This is the thing.
There you go. Let's go. Objective reality.
Women, we don't want to live in reality. We don't want to say things that are true.
There you go.
Was she fat? Yes. Was she a divorcee? Yes. These things are just objective.
The face of coping degenerative femininity right here. Look at that. Oh my god, dude, that was a worthwhile interview. I'm glad I reacted to that. Okay, I'm gonna go celebrate the 4th of July now. As you can hear, there are firecrackers going off around my apartment. People are celebrating the greatest country in the history of the planet. Like and subscribe to the channel. Okay, let's go.